Hi, I'm Mike King, Editor-in-Chief of the Diamondback. I'm here with Daniel Gallen, Terps football beat writer, and Aaron Kasnitz, Terps football columnist. The football team kicks off its season this Saturday against Florida International at Byrd Stadium. Daniel and Aaron, what are your thoughts on the big story this season?
I feel like the biggest story for the Terps this year is the return of C.J. Brown from his torn ACL last year. He was going into the 2012 season as the unquestioned starter after Danny O'Brien transferred, but then torn ACL derailed his season and forced the Terps to turn to Perry Hills. Then the injury avalanche came. I think the Terps are looking forward to having C.J. Brown back as the consistent quarterback, and I think he can do a lot with the weapons they have around him with Stephon Diggs, Nigel King, Deion Long, Brendan Ross, Albert Reed. The list really goes on and on.
Yeah, I really agree. I think CJ will be a big story this season. But I also think in the trenches is where the Terps will really see a big impact. Let's start on the offensive line. A month ago, Michael Dunn was a walk-on, didn't have a scholarship. Saturday, he'll be starting at right guard for the Terps after moving over from tackle. I think that's a big change. I think you see over at right tackle, Ryan Doyle has taken over. I think it's a really young offensive line. There's 2 sophomores. There's 1 redshirt freshman, 1 senior, 1 junior. So it's a really young group, but I think it's a really talented group. It's a really athletic group. They might struggle at times this year, but I think if they can stay strong, I really think that the weapons Daniel was just talking about, I think that that'll give them room, and I think that'll be a big part of the season. And of course the trenches on the defensive line too. Last year what the Terps lost in A.J. Francis and Joe Villano, among some other guys, they lost really good talent in those guys. They lost really good leadership in those guys. So I think this year, a younger defensive line led by Quentin Jefferson and Darius Kilgo, it'll be key to see if those guys can step up and replace not only the talent that Villano and Francis had, but also the leadership.
Daniel, what do you think the biggest game will be this season?
Looking at the Terps schedule now, I think October 26th against Clemson for homecoming at Byrd Stadium could emerge as one of the key games on the Terps' schedule. Clemson could come in undefeated in the national title conversation, while Maryland could have 3, 4, 5 wins and be inching closer to bowl eligibility for the first time in Randy Edsall's tenure in College Park. The game would attract national attention for Clemson with Taj Boyd, Sammy Watkins, and it could provide a showcase for guys like C.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, Deion Long to really show what Randy Edsall has been building here in College Park.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Clemson will be a big game. I'm going to go a little off the radar here and go with West Virginia. I know it's the Terps last season in the ACC, but this non-conference opponent will really provide a big matchup. I think with West Virginia, it could be a statement game. West Virginia isn't the same Mountaineers of old. Geno Smith isn't there, Tavon Austin isn't there, and I think they're kind of a vulnerable team this year. That'll give the Terps an opportunity to make a statement win, a quality opponent. Really, they'll have a shot to beat them. And I think it's a big game because of the location. It'll be played in Baltimore at M&T Bank Stadium, home of the Ravens, and I think that's a big game for recruiting. That's a great recruiting base there in Baltimore. And I really think that a win there could send the Terps into ACC play, really feeling good about themselves if they can get that win.
Daniel, what are your predictions for this Saturday's game?
I'm going to take the Terps by a score of 27-10. You know, there's a lot of things. We haven't seen C.J. Brown on the field since November 2011. It's early in the season. Who knows if they're either going to come out fast or come out with rust. It can really go either way. And then on the other side, Florida International is integrating a new coach with Ron Turner, new offensive coordinator, new system, new defensive coordinator. They have a lot of moving parts, and who knows really how far integrated all of those parts are.
Yeah, I'm going to say the score's going to be 38-17 Terps. I think Florida International, obviously, they don't have the quality, depth, and talent that the Terps do have. And I think the Terps will put up some big numbers. I think offensive coordinator Mike Locksley wants to see how C.J. Brown handles this situation in his first game back in 2 years. He wants to try and figure out ways to get Stephon Diggs the ball. And I think because of that, he's not going to hold back. The play calling, they won't throw everything out at Florida International, but they'll definitely try and get guys involved. They'll definitely see what C.J. Brown can do. I think because of that, they'll put up some points. I'll say 38-17 Terps in a season-opening victory.
Great. And what are your thoughts on the season overall, Aaron?
Yeah, I think this is a really big season. I think there's a lot of continuity coming back for the Terps. I think Locksley and defensive coordinator Brian Stewart both entering their 2nd season. Edsall entering his 3rd season. It's really an important year for the Terps and this regime. If this regime wants to stay here for the long haul, they need to start making strides. And obviously the last 2 seasons they have a combined 6-18 record. That's not really cutting it. But I think with the continuity of the guys back, Brown healthy, Stephon Diggs, one of the most exciting players that this university has ever seen, I think that the offense will play well. And I'm going to say that they could go 7-5. There's a middle of the pack there in the ACC where maybe the Terps could sneak out of, maybe they'd fall to the bottom. But I think 7-5 with a bowl game and some serious improvements is in store for them.
Looking at things a little bit more optimistically, I think the Terps can go 8-4. There are some really tough games on the schedule. Clemson, at Florida State, at Virginia Tech. And like Aaron said, there is the middle of the pack ACC. And I think that geared with what the Terps have on offense, the potential of the defense, I think they can win most of those games that could be considered pushes. NC State, Wake Forest, even West Virginia. The Terps could definitely come out on top in most of those games. I sort of look at it kind of like 2010 when the Terps were 9-4, how it seemed like they won every game they were supposed to and fell short in a lot of the tough games against the upper tier opponents. I think that that's what we could be looking at again this year, so I don't think 8-4 is out of the question.
Thanks for joining me today, guys. Make sure to follow Daniel Gallen and Aaron Kasnitz on Twitter and to follow @DBK Sports. And look forward to more coverage from DiamondbackOnline.com this Saturday at 12:30 p.m. for the kickoff at Byrd Stadium against Florida International. And check back for more videos on Terp sports throughout the season.